Welcome, everyone, to the Full Dive Gaming Podcast, bringing a weekly dive of all the news, discussion, and condensed nerd talk you need for virtual reality gaming every Friday. I'm Brett McAfee, producer and editor of this podcast.
I'm Jay Bratt, a virtual reality YouTuber.
I'm Adam Charlton, a VR game developer who always seems to have audio problems.
It's true.
I'm Destiny Wheeler, entrepreneur and VR enthusiast.
And we are all sitting here in VR, interacting as if we were really together in one room. So check out the YouTube channel if you want to see us in our lovely VR avatar faces. We run the podcast in 3 sections. First, a VR gaming news section. Second, we'll be talking about our experiences with some of the new VR games to come out this week. And third, last but not least, we'll be talking about, well, this one changes week to week, first off. We'll be talking about the benefits of room scale in VR. Last week, we talked about how we all got into VR. Check out last week's podcast to hear all about it. We've got some Q&A before we hop into the news section. Destiny will be starting us off.
All right, so for the first question, we have it from Starsight. Which headsets do you guys have? For me personally, I have the Oculus Quest. What about you, Adam?
I have the Vive, but I also use the Index controllers.
Mm-hmm. He's fancy.
Bit
of a
Or fancy man.
Jay, what about yourself?
Didn't you also just order an Index, though? I feel like you should
I
be
do have an Index on order, but they are seriously backlogged right now,
yeah.
so it's taking forever.
So in 3 to 6 months, he'll have an Index.
Yes.
I have a PSVR, a Rift S, and today my Quest just came in the mail. I just opened the box today.
Oh, you got another one?
I did. I got to get back into the Quest game. So now I've got 3 headsets, 2 more to go. How about you,
Nice. I've got a Rift S, and I'm actually going to be ordering an Index as well. Well, it's on order, but so I guess I'm going to be... If, like, when you place your order, it doesn't really feel like you've ordered one because you're just on this super long wait list. So it feels more like you're ordering once, like, it actually gets close to shipment. They're like, please pay us now.
Yeah.
That's when I'll believe that it's coming.
Painful. Speaking of getting headsets, our next question comes from Noah Nelson. Noah asks, should I get a Vive for $200? Or since I have a smaller room, should I go with the Oculus Quest option since I can link it to my PC and play the PC VR games that I've been wanting to play? Noah, I know for a fact that you actually ended up getting this headset after you asked the question for free. So I'm going to say a free Vive always beats an Oculus Quest. But to answer more
For
of
other
what you're
people.
actually asking. For anyone, if you can get a free VR headset, I don't care what it is, take the free VR headset. It's worth it. It could be a Windows mixed reality, one of the terrible ones, and take it for free. You're asking, so basically, does it matter if you have the room scale? So the Vive will still work even if you're sitting, you're stuck in place. If you get those sensors up and to see you, it still works great. So you don't have to really worry about, do I have to have space for a Vive? You can still play the game sitting in place and stay there. But outside of that, I mean, if it were the Vive was $400 and the Quest was $400, I would probably say go Quest. Personally, what do you guys think?
Yeah, especially now that it has the option to use the link, and you basically get a lot of the same benefits that a PC VR headset does have. I think absolutely Quest. Like, I don't regret my purchase at all.
Yeah.
Quest definitely seems to be the way to go, and even someone who owns the Vive, the Quest is where all of the brand new features that Facebook is trying to put out, all of the really cool experimental stuff like hand tracking, Quest really seems, between the Quest, which is constantly getting feature updates, and the Vive, which kind of feels a little older and outdated now, definitely the Quest.
Yeah, I think you're setting yourself, like, even as a Rift S owner, which is a fairly recent headset, it feels more and more like Oculus have kind of forgotten that they released the Rift S as the Quest continues to get lots of updates, lots of new firmware. So you're really setting yourself up well by getting a Quest at this point.
Yeah.
And hand tracking?
Yeah.
Hand tracking?
Yeah, exactly.
Ever gonna get it? No.
I mean,
Not
we
that
would
it
talk
needs
about that
it.
before. Yeah, exactly. But it would be nice. We've had cameras. Why didn't we get it?
Right.
Anyway, speaking of why perhaps to get the Oculus Quest, Mr. Matties asks, how does the Oculus Quest have such good performance? Optimization is the answer to that. You've got specs in there that are comparable to, like, some of those supposed like gaming phones. But the truth is, when you have a gaming phone that doesn't need phone calls, doesn't need the Android OS, doesn't need all these other things, it's just running the Oculus software and games, you can get a lot out of a little. And that's, I mean, that's how like a lot of that's how video game consoles operate. That's how Macs, despite having often worse hardware than Windows, their OS is so streamlined and so optimized that it doesn't matter. They last forever. So Quest, super same way. Even though it's got specs that aren't like blow your mind impressive, not even remotely, they've they they require that their games are posted to the Oculus software or like meet a certain level of reliability. Otherwise, we'd be seeing a lot more games that are don't run very well at all on the Quest. Kind of like how iPhones have like you need to like have your game vetted before you can post it on like the Android Play Store where anyone can post anything. So optimize games, optimize OS. That's how they do it.
Yep, they are very picky too about what games go on the Quest because they want it to be represented really well by any of its games. So, like one game that I really wanted to play on the Quest, and one game that I love is called To the Top, uh, parkour kind of simulator game, and Oculus said no. They said it looked too tech demo-y, and they wouldn't let it be on the Quest, which I was sad.
Wow, I didn't realize that they had such a vetting process for the
Oh
headset.
yeah. I mean, the if you just compare this, I mean, that's just Oculus versus Steam in general. If you just look at the Steam games that are releasing all the time, a lot of them are just like really simple stuff that someone like made in, I don't know, a very small amount of time and just uploaded to the Steam store. Oculus is like, no, we want like real games. So they have a smaller store, but they're all vetted and therefore people expect a higher quality out of them. It's exactly like Oculus more and more reminds me of Apple in everything they're doing.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the reasons why Pavlov's Shack, has been getting delayed for the release, if I'm not wrong, but I think they were having a hard time trying to get a lot of approvals and a lot of things through Quest to get it in the store.
And that's a shame. Pavlov is something that should be experienced by everyone.
No, for sure, and
Yeah.
as is, it seems ready to go, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a trade-off. You have do you want to just be able to have more of your favorite games in there, but they're not going to run all that well? Or would you prefer knowing that Oculus is going to make sure that whatever the Pavlov devs are doing, it's going to be good because Oculus won't have it any other way? You know, it's a trade-off. Okay, with that, we're able to move into the news section. This week's news section is brought to you by no one. We have no, excuse me, no one. We have no sponsors. But if you'd like to be a sponsor for this podcast, reach out to me at Rip McAfee at fulldivepodcast.com. Spelling is in the show notes. It's on the website. It's all sorts of places. News piece number one.
All right, and I'll take it from here. So this first news piece is about Blade and Sorcery, the physics-based combat sandbox. It's not quite out of early access just yet, but it did receive a massive update 8, which brings sorcery to the Blade and Sorcery title, introducing all revamped new spells and armor systems, weapons, armor, and a lot more blades. So
Yeah, huge update.
huge update, and I did get a chance to play it earlier this week, and
Ooh.
it is truly living up to the name. It is incredible to have the new magical effects. It works really seamlessly into the game and has lots
Mhm.
of interesting interactions with all of Blade and Sorcery's existing features. It's a great step in the right direction.
That's good news to hear because I've played some Blade and Sorcery before this update. And was there even one spell besides lightning then? Because I was trying to find
I
it
think
and
there were
all I could
two.
find. What was
Oh,
the
they
There
other
were
one?
only
two.
maybe time slow. So they had lightning,
Yeah,
which is like an actual spell, and then they had slow time, which isn't really a spell, but a kind of a
right.
cool feature.
Bullet time,
Yeah,
basically. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I gotta check this out. Also, because the weapons, it seems like you get in there and there's this pretty big library, but like 20 minutes in, you're like, okay, I've kind of like tried every weapon already. So that gets me excited and gets me wanting to get back into the game because that's pretty cool.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
for
the interesting thing about the update, though, in my opinion, isn't the new stuff that gets added, but how the new stuff interacts with each other. And so, one of the biggest things about this update is all of the armor pieces. So, all of the enemies now have different armor. You can have leather armor,
Hmm,
you can have metal armor layered in different places. So, a person can have like a metal helmet and leather chest armor. Um, and so
that
your
is cool.
blunt weapons won't work all that well against leather, but works really well against steel. If you have a blade, you can't really slice into that metal armor, but you can heat it up with your fire spell, and it cuts like a knife through butter.
That's
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah,
that
it
is
there's a
cool.
lot of really interesting interactions now.
Does it slow your movement, the armor?
I don't believe that there's player armor yet, only
Oh,
NPC armor.
okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen like videos of like people who actually wear armor, but for the most part, real armor doesn't slow you down nearly as much as media likes to make it out to.
Unless
People
the
in armor,
paper
yeah, you
armor
could,
does.
yeah, you could sprint in a full set of armor. Like
Oh,
that
wow.
stuff doesn't slow you down that much.
New Olympic sport, maybe.
Yeah.
Destiny, have you played Blade and Sorcery?
No, but, like, okay, I've seen a lot of funny videos being made in the game from more just, like, role playing, so it looks great, it looks hilarious, but I don't know if I could play it now and, like, take it as serious as it's meant to be. But it looks fun, so, I mean, maybe I'll check it out one day.
Now,
I
I
don't
do have there are some reservations about Blade and Sorcery, right? Like it is an incredibly hyper violent game, and that sort of thing doesn't bug me normally. But it is the definitely one of the games where I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have always heard, "Oh, video games cause violence," right? This is
Mhm.
maybe the one game where I can kind of see where they're coming from.
It looks very brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where this is funny because Nat, my wife, I talk about her sometimes. She had seen some of the videos with me and was like shocked and like this is appalling. This looks terrible. And then I got her to play it,
Uh,
and she was like, "Okay, this is actually pretty fun. Like
yes.
it's real enough that like yeah, it feels like you're like fighting people stuff, but at the same time, it's still fake enough that you can laugh, you can enjoy it. You don't have to actually be a psycho to enjoy the game."
It's
Right.
like GTA.
I one question that I kind of asked when first playing this game, I do wonder. So like, oh man, and I'm not going to take us off on this tangent. I'm going to cut myself off, but I just want to say this. I do wonder, like, if someone had urges that weren't healthy for society,
Ooh.
could they
Mm.
actually play a game like that and get them out in a way that didn't hurt other people? But I'm going to cut it off right there. We're going to move on, talk about some different news because that is way too deep of a rabbit
Yes.
hole to start here
Leave it for the listeners to comment on or
tonight.
whatever.
Yeah, tell
And
us
if
what
you're
you
on,
think out there.
yeah, and if you're listening and you're like, I can't comment on Spotify, perhaps join the Discord community. Yes, it's in the show notes.
It's the place to be. It's a happening place. We have like
It
as many
is.
people there as we have subscribers on YouTube, so it is
Yeah.
happening. Let's move on. News piece number two. So Cat VR. If you haven't heard the name Cat VR, it's one of these several companies right now that's fighting to basically build omnidirectional treadmills. So, for the listeners out there, if you don't know what that is, if you watched the movie Ready Player One, you saw him stuck in place with something holding his body and he was physically running with his actual legs. There are many companies basically all trying to beat each other to production and get these into people's homes. Caviar, they're a China based company. They are known for starting their original Catwalk VR treadmill in 2015. It's once again returning to the crowdfunding platform to launch a new product later this month, serving up a VR treadmill called Catwalk C. It promises to appeal to at-home customers, and I can tell you it seems like it because in the trailer, everything they're showing you, they're not showing you arcades, they're not showing you where else is. They're showing these sitting next to your TV in your living room. They're showing it in your living space. The thing that bugged me in all the trailers, I don't know if you guys watched all of them yet. The person you're supposed to be able to physically turn. The person never did in any of the trailers. So I'm wondering if that feature isn't quite done yet.
Work in
It
progress.
was in it. I do they did a horrible job of showing it, but if you look closely, you do actually see that as he turns, it seems to be sort of like pressure sensitive because it would be once he turned a certain amount, the thing that was like holding him to the thing would suddenly just like jerk over to like meet his new position.
Ah,
But he was moving so little that it wasn't like they definitely should have had him really spinning,
yeah.
but
It looked like it was
it was
stuck.
moving. It was moving.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because I don't know. There's a video that I recommended to talk about because it shows like a lot of these different treadmills and there's different ideas. So the one thing about the catwalk that you need to realize you're standing in a bowl. So some people say that's good. Some people say that's bad because in real life you don't walk in a bowl, you walk on flat surfaces. So people think
Wait, what?
it should be flat.
Yeah.
It's in this giant bowl thing. So you like when you step, you hit the edge of the bowl and you kind of slide across. But the thing that bugs me about it is they include the shoes for you, but are you going to have 14 sizes of shoes in your house so every friend who comes over can try this thing? Are you going to make them wear 6 pairs of socks to fit into
Oh,
your shoes? It's
I hadn't thought
frictionless
of that.
shoes. There's other headsets that haven't come to market like the virtualizer. I think that's my personal favorite, where you just wear socks and that makes way more sense in a home environment. So
Right.
I don't know. Later this month,
Um,
that seems lofty.
and for those curious, they are going to be pricing this at around $700
Whew.
retail, which okay, while that sounds like a lot, if you're familiar with, I mean, first off, it's a VR tech where everything's like
Yeah,
super
that's true.
prototype. And, if you're expecting to only sell like so many of these, honestly, I heard 700 and I was like, yeah, if I like had money to burn compared to other things to spend money on, 700 isn't that much. It's a lot, but in terms of enthusiast level, like hobby level, um, high end gear, 700 isn't that bad. Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's way cheaper.
Most are thousands of dollars, let alone in the hundreds. This is literally the first good treadmill I've seen that's below $1,000.
The
So
Omni is
we're
the
coming a long way.
only one I think it's actually being produced, and I think it's about 600. But the
Right.
big problem with the Omni is you have a ring all the way around you that you can't see while you're in VR. So anytime you reach your hands down, you're risking smacking this ring. Where the catwalk, if you go look at it online, it holds you from behind, basically these two bars. So really, it should be pretty hard to ever accidentally hit these
Right.
bars. It shouldn't be easy to do. Uh,
And it also it looked like it had a fairly good system. My biggest concern with these sorts of treadmills is I want to be able to crouch and stuff when I'm playing these games. And most of these treadmills are like it straps to your midsection and it rotates, but it doesn't account for moving up and down. Um, this one, it showed the guy like doing like he was playing Onward. So that's the one game I want to be playing this with. Really, is like that's my main game. So seeing him like crouching and getting to a kneeling position and doing all these things, and not he didn't look like he was having to fuss with anything. That was super cool.
Crouching in a bowl seems kind of weird though. I don't know. And to those
Yeah.
people, a lot of people out there might even be asking right now, why the hell would you want to go running in the video game world? Why? This is for people like us who are really into VR. We want maximum immersion. I want to feel like I'm literally inside of the game. A lot of people think that's crazy. They don't want to be standing and running and crouching.
Yeah.
No, I want to feel like I'm in it. So I really want what's going to do it. That's where some of the other ones that haven't been fully produced yet, I'm hopeful that some of them will also come to market because I think this one looks good for the price point. But like you're saying, there are other ones that let you really crouch freely because they have weight compensation systems built into the ring that's holding you. And I'd love to see something like that because I want to just feel like I'm in the game. Forget that the world even exists outside of it. That's what I want. Full immersion.
Have you played any of the games where to, like, move in the game, you actually have to be running?
Yeah,
Yes.
or
The
well,
jog in
like
place.
where you like move your hands as if you're running. Is that what you're talking about?
I've had the ones where you move your legs, where you have to like jump almost, like
Well,
leg
now
to
that
leg.
you have your Quest bag, you need to look it up. It's on SideQuest. It's kind of like a version of Minecraft. I don't remember the name of it though, but it's still in early development. But it's the first and only game I've played like that where it felt like I was trying to figure out if it was just your hands or your whole body. It worked better if it was your whole body, but it's pretty crazy.
Huh. So you're kind of jogging in place.
There's games on even on PSVR. There's Evasion where that's one of the modes you can use. It is so awkward to run and
Yeah.
play. So like
Sounds kind of
it just
awkward.
it just doesn't feel right. But supposedly the main reason some of them come with that is because if you have motion sickness, that will keep it from happening because your body feels the movement. So
Like
Right.
it was so weird.
All right, I'm gonna move us on to the next news piece. So this one, it's about Project Cars 3. All 5 people in the audience got excited. So, so Project Cars 3, the upcoming sequel to the racing simulator franchise of Project Cars, is set to include VR support when it launches this summer on PC. The game, which recently unveiled, wait, did I read this right? The game, which was the game, which was recently unveiled by Slightly Mad Studios, is set to include a bevy of new features in addition to the 12K resolution and what it calls best in quotations best in class VR support on PC, which actually is really cool to see from a company that is creating a not VR first game, to have that level of like, we want it to be the best VR racing sim. Pretty cool.
Just wait till we get 12K resolution in a VR headset. That way it can
Yeah.
fully support it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that
I
is
can't
crazy.
imagine. I can't imagine how good that would look, and I can't imagine how many video cards you would need to run it. Uh,
My headset looks better than real life.
yeah. It's the future. It's real. I mean, there are TVs like, some of the high-end OLED TVs that you have, and you look at it, and it's like, this is more colorful and more real than real life. Like, eventually, the headsets will be to that point, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
I don't
it's
know.
definitely gonna get there.
I see where you bring up Project Cars, even though it's not a fully VR game, they're really going for this. I think that's smart because I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people who are these full 3 monitor cockpit racing sim type
Right.
people. The minute they try a game in VR, they get rid of their whole rig because it's just so much more real.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge difference. So I think they're smart to do that because they're realizing the sim racing world is going to move very swiftly to VR and get rid of all of those crazy cockpit setups, honestly.
Yeah. We have a very similar thing going on with for those that are familiar, Microsoft Flight Simulator has been getting like more and more trailers and more details. But one of the things we're most looking forward to as VR users is VR support, because most flight sims have VR support now. And it's when the first details were coming out and we got some trailers of Microsoft Flight Sim, they were like, "We don't have any plans to support VR." And the VR flight community is large now, and they were very vocal. And they're like, "What are you guys doing? Like, all of your people are moving to VR now. This is like this is where we're going." So they totally did a 180. It's not we're not expecting VR on support or on launch like Project Cars is doing, but they have been saying like VR is now like really a focus for ours. It's probably still not going to come out at launch, but we're hoping to get it out um, at some point after launch, which is cool to see. So I'm just going to say a little bit about Project Cars 3 for those that are like, okay, cool, that has VR support, but I want to hear a little bit about the game rip. Um, so I don't know if you guys have watched the. Oh, my hands. Why do they do this? I don't know if you guys watched the trailer, or have played the previous Project Cars 2, but this one looks to be a little bit more focused on sort of street cars and street racing. It's less
Yes.
of like almost Forza Horizons ish. I don't think it's still going to be on tracks, unlike Forza Horizon, which was more of like a free realm thing. Um, but it is going to be more sports cars. We haven't we've literally seen like either very little to no footage of like GT racing or Formula racing. Now, I think a lot of people are excited about this because a lot of people are into sports cars. Admittedly, for myself, I'm the kind of person that likes the racing stuff. I play these games because I'm like, I want to get strapped into a GT car, or I want to be, I want to play a Formula. I want to play in a Formula car. That's the cool part to me. And especially one of my favorite parts about Project Cars 2 is that you have a whole career in these games. You, as someone who's like total, has only gotten into these kinds of games after getting into VR, because I didn't care to like play these games on a monitor. The I was so inexperienced that I enjoyed being able to work through a career of all right, I'm working in like the beginning, sort of like you start in carts and then you can go to like early GT stuff and then work your way up till you're at like GT5 or whatever it is, or like up to Formula One, like, stuff like that. I worry they're not going to have that focus, and for people like me, where it's more about sims of the races, I don't know. I don't know. I worry it's a little more arcadey than I'd like.
I wonder if they're gonna keep the real car physics, but just give the more cars. Because I mean, I liked uh oh, what was it called? Drive Club. It was kind of arcadey, but it was really cool to be able to give someone a VR headset and put them inside of a Porsche or something, and they were like, "Wow, look at this car!" Like that's where you can excite other people with it. For the hardcore, diehard enthusiasts like you, yeah, this might not be exactly what you're wanting, but I think I'm more interested in it hearing that side because I want to play in some of these crazy high end cars and go crash them and
Right.
see how it feels.
Right? I wanna play in a Porsche.
Say again?
I wanna play in a Porsche.
Yeah. And I mean, I see the appeal. It is cool. There, though, I wasn't the only one that was saying this. There were a lot of comments on these. I was watching it on YouTube, so it was YouTube comments, and there were a lot of people that were saying even for sports cars, they weren't. They were worried that Project Cars wouldn't be the project of cars that the previous games were, where they're going for more variety instead of more focus. And a lot of us play because we want those wheels to warm up and we want the tracks to warm up as more cars go over them and those little details that make a big difference in real life. So once you know what to look for, you know when it's missing. So yeah, I don't know. I like arcade stuff too, but I want there's a ton of games that do racing, and there's a lot of games that do VR racing now. Project Cars, you are the sim game. you know,
Stay in your
live
lane, people.
yeah, live up to it. If you keep making those games, then that entire sim community is going to get your game. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. My 2 cents.
Well, we'll see how it is when it comes out.
Yes. All right, Destiny, take us away. Zero Caliber VR.
Yeah, so up next, Extral Games announces Zero Caliber VR, four-player co-op shooter Gambit coming in 2021. So it's been described as a road movie-style adventure full of tracks, guns, and rock and roll. And they have a small, short trailer that you can watch. It's kind of like a teaser of it, and it looks very like post-apocalyptic, kind of like Mad Max. So I really dig the whole vibe of it. Like I really like this style.
I didn't get the chance to see this trailer. Have you guys seen it?
I haven't, but even just reading the road movie style, I immediately thought Mad Max. Like that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was imagining.
I love it. So I think I'll definitely be checking that out.
Hmm. So, so you saw the trailer, right?
Yeah, but it literally is like a 13-second trailer. Like it doesn't really give you hardly any insight to even like the details of the
Gameplay.
game. Yeah, exactly, like gameplay or anything. Just a little bit of the visuals, but that in itself, is definitely enough to get me hooked in. As far as the actual game itself, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
is this going to be a separate game or an addition to their already existing Zero Caliber VR?
I think it's a separate one. At least that's, I mean, what my takeaway from it was.
That's I actually thought when I first read it that it was like DLC, and then when I reread it, I was like, okay, I think this is a separate game. So yeah, I think it is something totally different. And with four-player co-op and cars, the immediate thing I think and hope is that one person's driving, two people are gunning. Like I'm hoping it's something like that because I hope it's not just four people stuck in a car together shooting. Like I hope someone's actually driving it and there's some open
Right.
environments. Like
I
you're
mean,
giving us some high hopes.
I would be totally okay with just like if you've seen Mad Max 2, that like scene where they're just on the big old truck and fighting from that. I would be so down for just that. That would be sweet.
Eh,
They
eh.
don't have the license for it, but
I'm glad that honestly somebody's coming out with a game that is that style because there's not a lot of games out there that
yeah.
are, based around that.
Yes, but as someone who has played Zero Caliber VR, at least the original one, I have some hesitations. So the Zero Caliber VR, it had a lot of great ideas. It came out in some of the early days of VR, and the feature set for Zero Caliber VR is huge. There's huge single player campaigns. All of your guns have these crazy attachments, different magazine styles. Like it is, the feature set is huge, but the whole game it just feels very unpolished. And it makes it somewhat of a shame to play because you feel like there's so much potential there and it's just not great game. And
So why
so,
is it not polished?
well, and there's a little bit of a difference between this game and something like War Dust, which was also very unpolished and janky. There's sort of a different feel. Um War Dust was super janky and unpolished, but it just made for incredible moments of just laughing at the sheer ridiculousness of the game.
Right.
Zero Caliber VR is unpolished in a frustrating way,
Mm.
where you pick up a gun and half of the gun doesn't render. Or you try and
Okay.
climb, and you can climb on this ladder, but you can't on this ladder. And it just
I'm
is
starting to get
very
what you're putting
frustrating.
down.
What's
Hmm.
that?
I'm starting to get what you're putting down now, like what that
Yeah,
difference is like.
hopefully they fix that with the new one.
Yeah, and so again, this sounds like the sort of thing that it has some incredible ideas, and I hope that it does it well, because if they do it well, this is going to be a fantastic experience, and I'd love to do an episode where we're all just driving around in the car,
Oh,
Mad
that would
Max
be
style.
fun.
Mhm. Yeah,
But again, I'll see. I'd like to see it when it comes out to see how it is.
I definitely think there's a different expectation for this game than there is for like Mortis is just like a small game made by very, I mean they're all made by a small amount of people, but a smaller amount of people, and you can just tell from the menu screen like okay this game is jank, but we're just gonna have fun with it. Zero Caliber is like they put out these serious trailers. They are marketing their game like it's going to be like they want it to be a top-notch shooter, that they wanna nail the experience of shooting guns in VR. That's like their shtick. So they gotta nail it, and they haven't.
So,
So I
but
get what you're saying.
yeah. So I hope they nail it with this next one, though. Personally, I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
definitely have to try it out.
Well, on the other side of the spectrum, PSVR exclusive Paper Beast is coming to PC VR this summer. Paper Beast is described as a surreal wildlife simulation. It launched on PSVR and it's slated to release Steam VR headsets sometime this summer. Uh, it's going to support the Rift, the Vive, the Index, basically everything. Steam, Oculus, Viveport, all of it. So now we have a game that is all about the aesthetics. If those of you out there haven't seen Paper Beast, haven't seen anything about it, it's these animals that are like made of bits of paper, is what it looks like. And I feel like that might have been a really crafty way to make them look pretty polygonal and easily. But between the music and the style of it, it looks gorgeous. It it looks like it's a magical experience that you ride along with. But with that, you're teleporting with snap turns. Oh,
Oh, no.
how is this possible? Like, how long have we been in VR? How many times have we told the developers we don't want this? Uh,
Maybe it's because they're used to PlayStation VR where you don't have the joysticks, and
oh,
I don't know, they're being lazy about the port to PC, I guess.
maybe that's what worries me about this. The whole thing also, people are a little bothered. You could get through in about 3 hours, uh,
It's
and
a
it
little short.
was $30.
Yeah, 3 hours for a 30-buck game.
Oh.
$10 an hour is a little bit on the pricey side.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Vader Immortal wasn't really any better, but at least it was Star Wars. You aren't offering Star Wars Paper Beast. You gotta either increase the game, I guess, or increase the time of the game.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's the
So
thing, maybe they'll add other things later on to make it more worth it.
Maybe.
uh, I'm not hopeful. I do think the developers made a beautiful looking game, and apparently there's puzzle elements. So certain animals have certain abilities, and you have to like use those, get through areas. Like cool stuff. But like again, this many years into VR, if you're gonna stick me with teleportation and snap turns, your game better not cost much,
Oh yeah.
because I am not going to be happy about it. So I do not see this being a great and exciting move for the PC VR community.
Have you played this on PlayStation?
No, I keep up with a guy, a VR YouTuber who does all the PSVR stuff, and after watching his review, I decided not to get it. And he's saying good praises for it. That guy as well. He reviews PSVR games, and he talked about how it was good, but at the price, it was just way too much for what you're getting. Who knows? Maybe it'll come out $20 on PC, and that'll be a little better. I don't know, but
Mhm.
Right. It looks like origami in VR.
yeah.
Hmm,
It's the art style's origami. You don't do
that is
any
cool.
origami, but that is
No,
the
yeah,
art
just the
style.
visuals, like, I wasn't expecting that when, I watched the video for it. So, I
Right.
mean, yeah, it's very unique.
Yeah. Although I would be down for some origami in VR. Developers, if there's something you can give us where we get to build
Mm.
things in VR, that is something I love to do. So like Let's get some more games like that. Let's make some contraptions, fantastic contraptions, fun
All right,
again.
give me 3 years, I'll get that for you.
Okay, I'll be waiting. Be waiting.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything on the podcast without his permission in too much detail, but Adam was giving me a little bit more details on the game he's been working on, and without saying what it was, I will tell you guys I'm super psyched. I loved the ideas he was talking about. Cannot wait to like share more. Just to, drop a little hype in there.
As long as there's going to be 3 review codes coming this way, right here,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
3 of us.
Well, like that was something I wondered about. Like when Adam releases his game, is that something we want to play as it's being, as it's coming out, or is it something the hosts would be better off playing once it's like done? I Do you have
Hmm.
any preference? Have you thought about that?
It'll be something to think about, but
Okay.
definitely when we get closer to the date, you will all get early access copies, regardless of if we want to talk about it on the show or not.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Just tear it up.
Mhm. All right. And with that, we are moving on from our game section. We have one more Q&A question before we hop into the games section. This question is from TechRS, and I forgot what it was he exactly said, but I knew it boiled down to PlayStation VR or Oculus Quest. Which one, fellas? Now, Jay, you've had a whole video on this, so you're gonna
Yep.
talk last. Adam,
Okay.
what do you think?
Personal preference, Quest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Quest is the way of the future, and PSVR seems like it's not. In my
Yeah,
personal
especially with the
opinion.
PlayStation 5 coming out.
Yes. Destiny,
Destiny.
what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, I really love my Quest. I don't regret it, especially with all the new stuff that's coming out for it. And now that you're able to run it through PC, especially for people who aren't console gamers. I mean, yeah, Quest for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, this is and for those that are like, why these two headsets in particular? Why are these the ones to get? So the Quest is standalone. It's $400. You don't need a PC. You don't need a console. It's $400 and you're done. With that added benefit of if you have a PC or if you know you're going to get one later, it connects to a PC and then you get to play PC games. Super cool options. The PlayStation, you will never connect to a PC, but it connects to a console, which means technically it can handle things a little bit tougher than the Quest can. Um, and while it's how much is PlayStation VR these days? What does it go for?
If you paid brand new, it's still 350, which I think is crazy. But you can find these things on Facebook Marketplace for 125,
Right,
150.
exactly. So you're looking at, and it doesn't even need like a PS4 Pro. You can run this thing on a regular PlayStation. So you could probably, I'm gonna make a quick estimate of you could probably get into PlayStation VR for around $300 if you knew where to shop. By in both getting a PlayStation and a PSVR, and so many people that don't have a gaming PC already have a PlayStation. So for all you guys, it's like, well, why spend $400 on a Quest when I can just spend $100 and get a PlayStation VR headset? And as Adam touched on, the PlayStation VR headset, we're pretty sure here. I think everyone's in agreement is about to get phased out. We have the PlayStation 5 coming out. We're expecting more details. The PlayStation VR headset itself is already more and more starting to look outdated, and if whether or not they're planning on it, they should be getting a new headset out. So I think that extra $300 is worth it. And especially if you're going full price, 350 for a PlayStation VR versus $400 for a Quest, no brainer. Get a Quest. Oculus is going all in on this headset, and we're going to see so much more out of it. It's absolutely the way to go.
And the controllers. I mean, I definitely would
Yeah.
prefer
Oh
like
yeah.
the Quest controllers over PSVR.
Oh man, the PlayStation Move controllers versus that the Oculus Touch controllers, guys, are phenomenal. They're like short of the index controllers, they're the best in class. So maybe
Yeah,
a
every
little small for big hands, but
Everything everyone said here is right. There's only 3 reasons even I said in the video that you would even consider a PSVR over a Quest. One is price, obviously. You can get them used super cheap. 2, comfort. PSVR beats almost any headset as far as comfort, but especially the Quest. If you're gonna get a Quest, look into some comfort mods, I'm telling you now.
Hmm.
And 3, the amount of games available. It's getting better with the Quest, but for a long time there, it was painful how small the library was for the Quest. And if you don't have a PC, that's the only reason you're considering these two. You're not going to be able to get a link and play all those games. So those are the only 3 reasons in which it would be in any way superior. But yeah, no, Quest is definitely right now the way to go. Or if you're not in a hurry, you need to save up the money, hold out, see what they say about the PS5 and PSVR. Who knows? There might be some sort of surprises coming, but
Right.
definitely the Quest is it's in most ways better, except for how uncomfortable it is. That's my biggest qualm with mine.
And so for those that aren't like keeping up with the industry numbers like us nerds, the Oculus Quest is right now outselling everything, not just by a small margin, but by nearly double. If all the develop, oh, excuse me, all the developers that know what they're doing right now are buying into the Oculus Quest because that's where money's being made.
And something to keep in mind too with that statistic, that's a terribly skewed statistic. The Quest has been sold out forever, everywhere.
No,
If
I
there
mean
was enough
I mean in
units.
software sales.
Oh, in
Software
software
sales.
sales, okay. Because even in hardware, if the Quest had been available this whole time, there would be so many sold that there would be
Oh yeah.
so much more software sales too. Like it has just been painfully hard to get one. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's Facebook. Come on, we gotta figure something
They
out here. People want
literally
them.
can't keep up with production,
Yeah.
which is, it's really just because of quarantine. I'm sure they'd be on it if not for quarantine or not quarantine, the
Social
coronavirus,
distancing.
All
social
the
distancing
stuff.
and coronavirus. Yes,
And
All
the
the
yes.
stuff.
holidays really killed it, 'cause I know, like, around, Christmas, I knew some people that were trying to get their hands on one, and it was really tough because they were selling out so quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, before
Yeah.
this it was bad and then it got really bad. The scalpers had them up to $800 at one
Like,
point.
Oh,
whew,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
It's the as not as much as I'm not looking forward to the wait list that is the index has that Adam and I are now going to be going through. It is kind of nice to know that it's just like on a list and they're just being made, and as soon as mine comes up, I'll have one. Whereas for the Oculus Quest and the Rift S, it's more of just you have to like for those that are like listening in closely now, use nowinstock.net, I think it is, and just subscribe to everything related to the Quest and the Rift S, um, and you'll or not and or the Rift S, and you can see when they come in stock because they are in stock a lot, but they go really quickly because everyone's looking for them. It's kind of like how Nintendo was with their like mini ES and all those, um, where it goes on sale. They are refreshed in stock nearly weekly, but they go so fast that you have to just be super on top of it, and it means that a lot of people are waiting weeks because they cannot get it in time. That's super unfortunate. All right, now for the gaming section. As usual, this gaming section is brought to you by, well, no one, because we still have no sponsors. But if you'd like to be our sponsor, please reach out to me at ripmcafee@fulldivepodcast.com. All right, for the first game, Jay, you've been playing Crisis Brigade. What do you think?
I played Crisis Brigade 2, number 2, so we're on the second one. The sequel is out now.
Right,
I
right.
I played it, I was frustrated, and I
Oh
stopped
no.
playing it. So
Oh no.
let me give you a quick synopsis what the game is. Basically, if you know what Time Crisis is on the arcade, that's what you're doing in VR. You
Okay.
stand in one spot. You have to physically take cover. You're shooting these characters that are trying to shoot you, and then once you've cleared the area, you get to choose go left or right or maybe straight. There's usually only 2 options. You choose a direction to go. Takes you down the path, basically through in disguise teleportation. I'll say it's like takes you 10 feet, and then you're there, and then
Oh
same
no.
thing all over again. You shoot
Oof.
people. You might get to pick up a gun because you shot somebody. You might get to use an upgrade gun for a minute. You might get to freeze time for a minute. Uh, this game is unrelentingly difficult. I was surprised. it felt like an arcade game. Maybe if you'd played Crisis Brigade 1 all the way through, maybe you'd be really good going into it, but it is brutal to try and play. You get shot 3 times, I think, or maybe it's twice, and you're dead. Uh, and people are shooting at you from every direction. Your cover is not very good. You're trying to use cover, and it has this upgrade system basically. So let's say you made it 3 points in, you get 20 tokens. So then you should restart the game, and you can now try to spend your 20 tokens to get further. Well, the big problem was the 20 tokens, you need at least 50 to even buy an extra life. So you're having to commit to dying 3 times to even get one extra life. And if you get 200 tokens, you can do a continue. 100 tokens, you get a laser sight. So there's all these little upgrades. It is brutal.
But the question is, are those tokens microtransactions?
I don't believe so. And the game,
Okay,
even though
good.
it's out, it's not fully up. There's going to be an online multiplayer mode. So if you were going into this with 3 of your friends, it'd probably be a lot easier. But by yourself, I was physically ducking, I was shooting, I was sweating. Felt like a real brutal fight. And it was just, and I said in the video, I don't want to not recommend the game just because I'm bad at it. The game was beautiful. It was surprisingly better looking than I expected because the first one was really cartoon looking. This one was still kind of cartoon, but it looked really good.
Okay.
The guns work quite well. The aiming, everything about them is really good, but it is just brutal. Like I left it so frustrated that I don't know if I'll want to go back. If you're into that kind of game, it could be great, but it is just, oh man, it's
I don't know
tough.
about these other shooter, Destiny and Atom I know are also into shooters, but for me, this is like I hear you play it and talk about how hard it is, and I'm like, ooh, a challenge.
You see, I don't get that feeling though, because it sounds like it's an arcade shooter. You don't get to move on your own. You're behind cover, and
Right.
so it sounds kind of uninventive. Like we've moved past this in shooters for
True.
VR. It sort of feels like we're regressing a little bit, and so I don't know. For me personally, it doesn't sound like my thing.
Mhm.
One thing, if you're really motion sick, the way the system they use are really smart. You probably would never get motion sick in this game at all, the way it's
True.
designed. So if you've been in Pavlov and you got sick the moment you tried to move or something, maybe this game would be a nice starter shooter game. I know Destiny, you've struggled a little tiny bit with motion sickness. So what do you think? Does this excite you at all?
Well, I mean, the fact that you just said that that's a little bit easier as far as motion sickness, then, that would definitely interest me because obviously, yeah, in Pavlov, I still do experience it on a small level, but, so to be able to have an FPS game for people, you know, that makes it a little bit less queasy, then sure. Sounds like
Mhm.
I'd give it a try.
Yeah, oof. It was
I
just
have
tough.
already purchased it, so I'm looking
Ah,
forward to,
I will be
um
interested to hear your experience next week then
yeah.
because I never, so it looked like there was only 3 levels. Maybe you once you pass those 3, you get to new ones. So I think that might be part of the reason it's so difficult is so that you get more playability out of these levels. But after I think maybe 6 or 7 attempts, I only made it to the boss of the first level and then died immediately in that section. So
Rough.
there was no satisfaction of like doing better or getting further. It felt like I either got unlucky and got shot or I got lucky and didn't. It didn't feel like I was necessarily getting better at the game. It was
Mhm.
tough.
Hmm.
I think as long as you like, I guess at least for me to also want to play the game, if it was an online multiplayer game where you can play with your friends and kind of turn it into like, more of like just a fun experience, then that would definitely, entice me a little bit more to play it.
Wait till
Yeah.
this summer because there's a thing that said it's coming this summer. So wait till this summer and then get in and try it
Yeah, yeah,
for you.
because yeah, just by myself, but same
Right.
thing with Pavlov. That's one of my favorite, things with it. It was one of my first like online multiplayer games. I think that makes a huge difference.
Right, yeah. Co-ops, any bad game is fun in co-op, so, struggling together might be fun.
Yes. So
Whether yeah.
that's my thoughts. Let me know out there what you think. Give us a comment. If you played the first one, the second one, tell us what you think. Rip, what have you been playing?
Okay, well, I do have so, one moment.
Oh,
I closed a window, and I've been trying to get it working this whole time, and
whoopsies.
okay, you know what? Alright, wait, I figured out what was wrong. Okay, I got it now. So, so I played the Wizards, and Thankfully, someone wrote the full name here because I had totally forgotten,
Uh,
which is why I was trying to find it. The Wizards Dark Times is the new one. So there was already the Wizards, and then there was the Wizards Enhanced Edition, I think it was, and it was the same game. And I played that on Oculus Rift S, and so on the Oculus software. And I thought it was kind of a like a low budget, maybe some good ideas, but not executed all that well kind of a game. Just like a lot of games on VR where it's like it feels a little bit half baked, and the graphics really needed some work. So Dark Times comes out. I've been looking forward to this because if I remember correctly, this game is made in Unreal Engine. There's not a lot of games that are doing that, but the ones that are tend to look a lot better. It's the what is it called? Contractors VR, which is the shooter we talked about it last week, looked phenomenal, and that was made in Unreal Engine. And seeing what that looks like, got me super hyped for seeing more games in VR with Unreal Engine. So this has it, and it shows. It's way better looking, guys. If Jay, you'd mentioned that you didn't know if you'd be into this because like the first one was so bad and the new one didn't necessarily look that much better. I've only put 2 hours in, but already in my 2 hours, I'm having a lot of fun. The graphics look good. The gameplay is perhaps a little simplistic still, and it being low budget still shows. Like the voice acting can be completely hit or miss. The soundtrack is okay, but forgettable. But the spells look really cool. They are way better than they were in the previous game. Everything feels a little bit more fluid. You feel a little more badass when you're playing, which is, you're playing as a wizard. You want to feel like a badass mage, right? And they do it. They do that. The fireballs look sick. They are like these, well, they look like fireballs. Who am I kidding? They look cool. Um and in VR it always makes it better. Um so the gameplay, I've yet to get far enough where I think I'm really being challenged because I can very quickly just cast fireballs over and over and over and just kind of, and they auto aim on people. So if you can definitely cheese your way through the game so far, um, but you've got a lot of spells. They're fun to create. The game has puzzle sections ish. Well, it does. Okay, it doesn't have puzzle sections. It has a bit of like sort of forced I'm gonna call it uncharted stuff where you
Mm.
need to yeah, see, Adam's like, I know what you're saying. Where you have to like climb a wall or climb a rope or whatever. And most of the time it feels unnecessary. Where there'd be like you'd be going through a tunnel, the tunnel would drop down like 4 feet or so, and there's a rope to get down. Like, gosh darn it, just give me a ramp. Like this isn't added gameplay. You're just padding the game now. Um there was a lot of that, but ignoring that, I think the game looks good. I can't wait to get back into it, which I think says a lot because the previous game I played it and would more was just couldn't wait to like feel like I'd already played an hour and therefore say I've played it. Um, this game I wanna hop back in, even if the gameplay isn't all that hard. It just I don't know, like there was a bit of story there. I'm interested. The visuals look cool. I want to shoot more fireballs. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I would recommend this. It's um unfortunately $30. That might be a hard sell. I will admit that. But on sale, this game I think is worth picking up so far. I'll talk about it next podcast once I finish the game, if I've
nice.
done that by then.
Well, and a lot of, I mean, magic and spells is kind of a thing we can all say VR is it. It works. It's obviously right for it, and many games have tried it. How many have nailed it?
Hmm.
That's much less. So the fact that you're saying this one really feels like you're actually the badass mage, that gets me more excited because I played the enhanced edition. I was playing it with a 3D router. That might have just screwed my whole life up though. Uh, I definitely didn't. It felt like, oh, it's wands or oh, it's these other ones where, yeah, you're casting spells and you're doing some stuff. But the fact that you said there's a story, like a real story, that gets me like, ooh, because part of being a mage or being in magic is a story. It's not just throwing fireballs, because
Right.
you can do that for a few minutes and be cool, but there's got to be a story. There's got to be a tale to it. If I'm in a fantasy game, I want a tale. So I'm
Right, it's
interested.
building the world that you're in. It's not just, "Oh, hey, look at me, look at what I can do." It's the magical world around you
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
really cool to learn about.
And the levels are also really good. I forgot to mention that. Level design really upgraded from the last game. It starts a little bit more narrow, but like towards where I had to stop due to time, um, it started really opening up more. There was like cool stuff, and yeah, it looks really good, plays really well.
Nice.
Would recommend. All right, Destiny, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so I may be kinda late to this, but I finally got around to playing, Richie's Plank Experience, and it's
Nice.
actually a lot of fun, and I wanted to do it right. I've seen a lot of videos where the people are using the plank and stuff, so I actually went out to my garage and found, like, a old piece of wood.
Wait, oh, I'm gonna stop you right there. Tell them real quick what the game's about.
Yeah, like, for me personally, I haven't heard of this.
Yeah.
What?
So
What?
like they don't know why you need the perfect experience.
Okay, wow. So, yeah, with this game, basically, the main modes that I tried, I don't know, I'm sure there was more to it, but the first mode, you kind of like step into this elevator and then you have different options. Like you can do just the plank experience, right? So you push that button and then it takes you to the top of this building. And as it opens up, you're literally like looking out over like the entire city, like super, super high up. And there's just this like thin, small plank that you have to, like, walk out on and you see down, like, it's just insane, like, it gives you that kinda like that roller coaster feeling, and,
Hmm.
and so, like, a lot of people will use, like, a real plank to give them that, that real feeling, and so, but like I said, the other modes, I don't even really know, there wasn't a name for them, or well, I don't know. Okay, so like maybe y'all can tell me more if y'all have played more of this game. But basically, there's like a button for donuts, a button for cake, and a button for like spiders.
What?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't really know what you'd call it, but like, so you push the different buttons, and at the end of the plank, it'll show you that. So, like, if you push the donuts, it'll show you a pile of donuts at the end of the plank.
They're incentives. They're trying to get you to walk the
Oh,
plank if
okay,
you
is
don't
that
want
what? Because I was like, What is this?" But the spider one was really funny, it was like spider cake, and I was like, "Okay, so let's see what this is." So you go out, it looks like a normal cake, but then when you start to pick up the pieces, there's, like, spiders all in it, and then these huge, massive spiders come out of nowhere, like, and start crawling all over the building, and it's
That sounds
just
awful.
crazy. But, and then there's, like, a few other modes where you like, one, you, basically have, like, 2 little, like, jetpacks, or I don't know what you would call them, but basically they help you kinda zoom around the map, and then if you holster behind your shoulders, you get 2, fire extinguishers, and you have to go around the city, like, putting out fires, and so it's, like, a very interesting game, like, it's not
Didn't
just
know they had these modes.
right, that's why I was like, "Ooh, what is all this?" And I'm sure there's more that I haven't even got to touch one yet, but, and for those modes, you don't even really need the plank, that's only just for the, like, pure plank experience, but, yeah, I know,
Hmm.
totally worth it. I mean, especially for people who are new to VR, it seemed like a very, very easy game to get into that gives you that immersive experience, but, as far as motion sickness, I don't think it's an issue at all. For people who are scared of heights, that's, a little bit different. That might kind of freak you out, but,
Right.
totally worth it.
I might have trouble.
Yeah, it was a really, really fun game.
So
that's the whole point of it. It's a fear of heights simulator. Everything else is just added little bonuses. And
right.
truly it is a VR experience. The game part comes in when you start sticking your friends in this thing and then watching them try to walk the plank, because the legs start to shake, especially if someone's never been in VR. This is a good one to really show them how immersive, I mean, especially if they're one of the haters. Oh, it's not real. It doesn't look real. Put them in this and watch them be crying trying to walk the plank. And Adam, we watched that viral video, and talked about on the podcast.
Oh
So
yeah,
the
that's
guy
Oh,
right.
that's Richie's
dove
Plank.
off. That was, yep,
Oh,
that was it.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. There's another mode where you
So
fly and you write in the sky, so you can like
Yeah, see, I
draw
haven't
things
got to
in the
try that
sky
one
and stuff.
yet.
oh.
Yeah, they
So
keep
Destiny,
updating.
did you get a plank?
I
Did you
did.
did you get your own plank to play it with?
Yeah, it was great. I was really
How
hoping
was
I had
that?
something around, but, so yeah, I went out to my garage and I found, like, an old piece of, like, siding, or, like, a thicker board that, worked at least for the time being. Because 'cause I've seen some of these people and they, like, go off. They really make a really cool setup, but I just used what I had with me, and,
Right.
it totally helped, like, enhance the experience. So, yeah, if you get this game and you do have something, I totally recommend, like, putting 2 and 2 together and getting the full experience of it.
Mhm.
Yes,
My
yes.
my house is under construction right now, so I'm very tempted to get this game, get one of those, like, big pieces of plywood out back and just, like, bring that bring that inside here
Do it. I'm
and try this
telling you,
experience
like,
out.
I actually regret not trying this sooner, at least for the Quest. Like, I know it's a huge game, like, a lot of people, or like what he said,
Yes,
experience, like, a
yes.
lot of people talk about it, and I always heard about it, but it just didn't seem like something that I would be into, but I finally gave in, and yeah, you're not gonna regret it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
How
should
much
do
how
that.
much is it?
Actually, it wasn't bad. I think it was only 14.99. I mean,
Okay, okay.
compared to, other price points, it was pretty reasonable.
Right.
Yeah, and the enjoyment you're gonna get out with other people, but measure your plank before you go in, because in the
Right.
main menu, it actually lets you put in the dimensions of your real life plank to give you
Yeah.
maximum immersion. So it's
I saw that. I saw that people can do that.
yeah, it's fun.
Right,
That
Adam,
sounds
what
really
about
cool,
you?
actually.
So this week I've been playing Vox Machina, which Rip talked about in
Mhm.
a previous episode. It is a mech simulator. So you get to pilot a couple stories tall mech and then fight other mechs in it. And I enjoyed it way more than I should have.
It's fun.
It is incredible, and honestly, I like it way more than I play a lot of flight simulators, and I like it even more. The experience is a lot more immersive than a lot of the flight simulators that I play, just because everything in the cockpit is interactable. You have a little
Right.
radio and you pick it up, and that's how you talk to people. You have like an air horn that you pull down. Just being in the cockpit, even without combat, is just a blast. Exploring and looking at all the different pieces. It's a really fun game, and interacting with all the different mechs and weapons and everything is a total blast. When I try and talk about games, though, there's sort of this feeling of like, how long is this game going to last you? Right? Is it a day game, a week game, a month game, or like a year game? Where maybe Pavlov is like a year game. There's just infinite content. Tower Tag is maybe a day game or like an hour game.
A minute game.
Yeah. So Vox Machina is maybe for when I'm looking at it, maybe like a week game. It's really fun to
Mhm.
get into, really interactive, great game. Especially when you're playing with other people. I can't imagine though, once you really get used to piloting it around, maybe there's like an added level of you really get good at piloting it against other players. But I'm sort of feeling it's like a week long game.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
So
all in all, really enjoyed it.
so do you remember my rant about the controls?
I didn't run into the same problems that you did.
Okay,
So I
that's
actually
good to
found the
hear.
controls pretty intuitive. Yeah, it's sort of weird with having to control your forward and backward speed and your boost on one hand. It does mean
Mhm.
that you have to switch back and forth. But I didn't find that I needed to control both of those at the same time very often, so it wasn't too big of a deal for me.
Okay.
The bigger
Yeah, I was
problem for me
constantly wanting to do that.
Yeah, so the bigger problem for me was I kept ejecting accidentally.
What? How? Is it 'cause you Oh, I think I know why.
Yes. It is very easy to grab with the index controllers. That is the only problem that I have with the index controllers is that a lot of programs, VR chat included, makes it very easy to grab things with the index controllers accidentally. And so if
Mhm.
I dropped my hands down, if I was, say, just finished off an enemy and needed to relax my hands, I would accidentally grab the eject handle, which was unfortunate.
I hadn't even thought of that. It literally is. They put the kinda like I don't know, like you might imagine some, like, ship to be or something. The eject is like right between your legs. It's that like, reach down and pull and then you fly up into the air sort of a thing. Um, and I totally hadn't considered that like because I ended up deciding to play on a Xbox controller, so I didn't play that long with the Rift. But even with the Rift controllers, you can pretty easily avoid accidentally grabbing the grip buttons. I told you though. I told you, Adam. There's a way to change that. Well, you should adjust those settings I spoke of. When I say I talked about it, like literally right before the recording of this podcast, I was talking to him about if you have the index controllers, you can change the sensitivity so that you can rest your fingers on the pads, but it won't actually consider it as a grip in games where it's more of like a in games like that where they didn't really make
It's
them
not
with the
built
index
for it.
controllers.
Yes.
Right. So when you're playing games like that where you want a more where you don't feel like you have to have your hands splayed out wide in order to not have the grip button activated, you can actually adjust it so that you can rest your hands on it and it doesn't do anything. It takes like proper gripping the controller and then it'll activate. So you should try that.
Will do. And maybe that can be a discussion for another day because there's lots of different controller designs out there. And
Mhm.
incorporating games for all of the different designs can maybe be a challenge.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
But
Especially when you've got like compared to most games, like if you're going like console to console, for the most part, they're just you have A B X Y, two joysticks, D pad, and two triggers or two sets of triggers. That's a very that and thank goodness they all keep it relatively consistent for that. Um, but yeah, it's while we're seeing some consistency in the VR controllers, it's kind of settled on joystick per each thumb gets a joystick and two buttons, and then you grip, like grip and trigger, which is nice to see.
But that's going to change as more things implement full finger tracking, because even the PSVR 2 patents show it having it. So that's gonna be a big change for all of us, and it's gonna take some learning, because I can't imagine your troubles you're having over there with me only having these little grips.
Right.
well, as long as you're not ejecting accidentally,
Hmm.
it's a fantastic game. And
Yeah,
I think you should try it.
yeah,
Nice.
it's a lot of fun, and it feels like you're driving a building. Like these things
Yes.
are tall,
How
and
much is
that's a
it?
really
How much is it?
I think I picked it up for $25.
yeah, that sounds about right.
I miss the old days when it was like $7. Like every VR game was
Yeah.
like less than $10 for a while. Those were the good old days.
You know what? I could see it being $25. It's certainly got it's got replayability. It's got multiplayer. It has a it's not a dead game, which is really nice. There's people that play it. Um and it's made really well. Like what he was talking about, it does feel so much like it was built from the ground up for VR, and the cockpit it's so cool to have a cockpit that you can interact with. Like you can grab your like instead of just having a mini map on your HUD, you have this like little panel that you can like grab and bring it to the front of you and then like slide it back if you want. It's little stuff like that that it's filled with, and it's so cool to have. It adds so much experience, and uh, clearly they put a lot of effort into this, and I can see why they're charging like a close to $30 game for this.
Nice.
I get it. All right. With that, we're going to move on to the discussion section. This question, let's see, not this question. This discussion section is brought to you by a user. We've, for the past two podcasts, been able to just sort of answer people's questions and then have one of the questions just be like the discussion section because we wanted to talk about it more. So we've got another example of that. This one's from VTid. He asked us, is this verbatim what we have here?
I think this
The
is copy and paste it, but you don't have
Okay,
to
cool.
don't have to go into the
Oh
rest.
no, I want to say it. I
Okay.
just wanted to make I wanted to see if it was just our interpretation or not. So he asks, "What are your thoughts on how important play space size is for VR? And do you think this is a major factor in putting people off getting into VR in the first place?" Personally, this is him talking still. Personally, I have always had a relatively small play space, but over the years, I've found I really don't need much at all anyway. The only game I've had to quote retire from is Elven Table Tennis because I need several meters either side and behind me to compete with the best and to stop injuring myself.
All right, to stop you real quick, I think that's 11 table tennis because Elven table tennis would be an incredible game.
Uh,
You're right, it is 11. I don't know why I said Elven. That
uh,
would be cool though.
I think the general rule of thumb from what I've seen as far as what you're asking about room scale, if a game lets you use the joysticks, no, you don't really need room scale.
Right.
If it doesn't, you do need space. And I think he's totally right. This is putting people off because a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't have the space. I don't have the space." Well, they don't know a game like Pavlov where you can do just about anything. You literally only need to be able to turn around and reach your hands out. That's all you need to be able to do. That's a small what for most people. That's less than a 6 foot circle for
Yeah.
most people. But there are games out there like Super Hot and like Job Simulator that don't allow you to move around with the joystick, and you're going to need some physical space to move around your room. So I think they need to get better as developers at remembering that and programming in some options for it somehow. I don't know how. I'm not a developer, but games like Superhot, a lot of people have been put off because they really wanted to play it, and immediately they're running around their room and punching everything in the room and hurting themselves, and they can't enjoy it.
Right.
That's one more mark why the Quest is the future because you can take it out in your garage anywhere you need to play.
So if
Mhm.
I can just add a counterpoint to that though, you don't need a play space, but if you have a bigger play space, you will definitely enjoy certain games a lot more, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So for things like even like Pavlov, which does offer joystick support, I find that it really helps intuitively that even though you're moving around with the joystick, you're up against the corner and you intuitively take a step forward to lean around the corner to try and
Right.
take a shot. And so having a bigger play space lets you do more of those intuitive movements. So if you do have a bigger play space, you'll get sort of that added immersion from it that you
Mhm.
may not otherwise have. Is it enough to prevent you from getting VR if you don't have a big play space? Absolutely not. VR is incredible regardless of the size of your play space, but it will definitely enhance your experience, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. It's the I right now I have a big play space, but I used to just play at my studio back up in Oregon, and it was not a large play space. It was basically I think it was roughly 4 feet by 5 feet. It was really small. Um, and you know what? If you can stretch both your hands out, I'm doing this in VR for those. Hello, Vijay. If you can, put your hands out, like do your full wingspan, do a 360, um, and if you can do that, standing up, crouching, because you don't, not just standing. Like if you do that and like, but there's still something below your hand, you'll probably hit that playing
Yeah, you
Beat
don't
Saber
want to
or
punch
something.
your table.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but so and then maybe 1 foot or two of give after that because whether or not you mean to, you will move. Um, especially when you're playing a game that has you reacting to stuff, and you know the the animal instincts will kick in before your logic does, and um, you want a little bit of give perhaps to make sure that you don't punch your TV, but it's you can really manage it, and I don't know, wear boxing gloves.
You get a mat to stand on that will keep you closer to the zone.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
exactly.
that is one of my favorite ideas for helping control that, but honestly, in a lot of games, you can actually sit down now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of games are supporting sitting down. The Wizard game I was playing, I'm pretty certain it support you could at any moment press the A button, which I found a little too easy to I mean, I didn't accidentally press it, but I was like, I'm surprised they have such like like you just press A and it instantly recenters your HUD. I don't know if I was like happy about that or not, but yeah, a lot of games support just like you don't even need a room space, a room scale anymore. You don't even need a 4 by 4 foot. You just need a chair and I guess room to move your arms.
Yes.
But yeah, we're coming a long way.
Note to all VR creators out there, this is the one more just unsung benefit of PSVR. No matter what game you're playing, what control you have, a dual shock and aim moves, you hold the start button down and it immediately recalibrates you to the center of whatever game you're playing.
Yes.
I miss that in every game I play on PC. I swear it drives me crazy all the time. Put a little button on controllers going forward, please, that you just hold and it re-centers you all the time. It would make such a difference. Because even for us here in the
Yes.
podcast, we have a hard time getting in our chairs, and then if we move, something's wrong. We have to like get up. It's just one of those things. It'd be so nice. Please, please.
Hmm. Anything more to say?
I'd love to hear some from Destiny because you played with a Quest a lot, way more than I have, and you don't have wires. Do you find that that's good or bad with your play space?
Um, well, because you know my exact setup, so with my layout, because I have a wall in between my computer in my actual play
Oh
space,
yeah.
if I'm wanting to run it with the link, I do find it pretty inconvenient, especially for games where I need to be moving around, since I'm not used to the
Hmm.
wires. But, I mean, as far as, like, just running it without the link, I do have a smaller play space, and I it's not a huge issue. Like I said, mainly it's just when I'm trying to run it through the PC.
Right.
I felt like it got people into trouble quickly when I let them play with the Quest. The fact that there was no wire really made them feel like they could just go do whatever they wanted. That might have been a noob thing, but it's definitely if you have people on a Quest, make them sit down maybe the first time, just because they're gonna run across the room and break something, if not
Oh,
themselves.
yeah, for sure. But and I mean, making sure that, like, you're using the Guardian properly definitely helps, especially now with one of the Quest
Hmm.
updates. Um, I don't know how to describe it, but basically when you're setting up the Guardian,
Oh yeah,
everything
I saw this.
yeah, like, it's like these little, like dots, like sticks. I don't know, you just have to see a picture of it, but it's basically like an enhanced grid to help show you where objects are so that that way you can make sure to mark around it, just like as a safety precaution. So,
Hmm.
I mean, that definitely helps. But yeah, if you're new to it and trying to describe that, it's pretty hard to, you know, new people trying to
Right.
set it up for
Right.
the first time.
Yeah, it's basically using because the way the Oculus systems work is um, and there's a lot of tech that kind of works this way where it's looking for contrast in order to find places in the world to like you use it in like video editing as well. Like if you want to track an object, you find a point on that object where there's some really clear contact contrast because it'll typically always look that way. So it basically is showing you every point it found. Well, probably not every point because that would be a lot, but it's showing you a lot of the points it found in your world of like there's some really high contrast here. Um, and it'll choose that point and uh, it, as you move around, it'll see it on the camera and be able to recognize it. And that's what it's showing you. So it's a 3D world of points.
It's really cool. I really like that update, but, I mean, like I said, other than that, definitely as far as playing without the cord, I've definitely gotten in trouble a few times as far as the environment getting too close around me, but
Yep.
luckily, underneath, I have quite a bit of space in between, like, my nose and the headset itself, so I try to, like, be pretty aware of, where I am, but I do
Hmm.
wanna do the idea that Jay was talking about because 'cause I've heard of people doing that before with the whole mat thing. So, that's pretty
Right.
cool.
And if you don't want to get a mat, people constantly ask me on Discord, Rip, what's turn signal? Because every time I play a game on Steam VR, turn signal boots up and it shows that as the game I'm playing. Um, so, to answer all you very curious people in the Discord community, turn signal, I would highly recommend it if you're going to be playing a game on Steam VR. It is this very low maintenance app. It you just install it and it's like good to go. It's like click and you're done. It will create a little like star thing. It's hard to explain, but it's really non-intrusive. It doesn't like break your immersion to have this little star in your world. So it puts this little star, this gray star thing on the floor, and it does two things. One, it's always in the center of your play space.
Hmm.
So rather than having to like turn on pass through or put your hands out to like try and get your border to show up so you can recenter yourself, I just glance down, see the center, and walk to it, which is so nice. And then you have the added benefit of when you spin, it shows you that you've turned, and so it's basically cord management. So that in order to keep your cord healthier and make it last longer, you never want a cord to have to twist too much, and the more you twist it, the shorter its lifetime will be. So by having this program, you can more often make sure that you're recentering yourself, especially when you're playing a game that has you moving around a lot. Super nice. It's like all benefits, basically no downsides. I would highly recommend it.
Sold. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
get
haven't
it.
heard of that.
I'd heard of it, but I kept thinking it would be like this big arrow would show up that was like turn
Oh
left
no,
or something. I thought it was gonna be
no,
pretty
no.
intrusive, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, no, it's super like it's like it's small enough and out of your way enough that you never really notice it. The only time you notice it is once you've moved away enough from your middle spot, and then you're glad it was there because then you can go back to the center. Um, yeah, and it's like a light gray. It's also you can change its opacity. You can change that's its like see-throughness for those who aren't familiar with that word. Um, you can change it's really customizable. You can also at any point reset it. If you like weren't happy with how it was when you first booted up, you can reset the rotation really easily through the Steam dashboard. It's a really cool program. And and it is really useful when you're playing in a really small play space. You can always stay centered, which is really cool.
Dave, this is for you. Okay,
Yes.
go get it.
All right. And with that, I think we're going to wrap this podcast up. We're now at roughly an hour and 20-ish. I don't know. It's always hard to say because like I press the record button and then we take a while to get going and then we actually start. So I don't know that I it says here 1 hour and 27 minutes, but I think it's around 1 hour and 20 in reality. So thank you all for tuning in. We've got all sorts of links to really cool places. We've got our awesome Discord community. Cannot recommend enough joining. For those of you that are like, I'm already in so many Discord communities. Why would I join this one if it's just a place to talk? We've got Q&A section that you can take part in. We've got um, other stuff. My mind totally blanked.
The occasional giveaway.
The occasional giveaway, memes, because why not?
And lots of
And
fun community interaction.
yeah, and we're there. We're not that Discord community where like the hosts are there, but they're not really talking in it. No, we're constantly in our chats. We're really proud about that. Would recommend it. It's a really cool place to hang out. So we've got our Discord community. Again, this is all recorded in VR. So check out the YouTube channel to see that all happening. It's a really cool experience. And I think that's it. Podcast done.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Thank you for watching. What I do.
I'm so tired.